Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. My little family is made up of my dad and me and an absent mother who left us both before I could even speak. It's not a part of my life which I pay too much attention to. I didn't know her and never felt the need to seek out the presence of a motherly figure in my life. You could say that we have an ordinary life, with the exception of poverty and struggling to make ends meet. Despite the lack of financial stability or luxury, my dad and I have always had each other's back, so economic poverty never seemed to be much of a problem. It always seemed like my poor dad was working himself beyond human capabilities. Despite being very aware and helpful with savings, he always worked 2 or 3 jobs to provide an ordinary, everyday life for me. That is, of course, until my life got turned upside down by the events that took place recently. A couple of months ago, I got a call from a construction site that I worked at with my dad informing me that there was an accident at work, and that my father's life being taken away had been the consequence of a machine malfunctioning. The news struck me like a lightning bolt, as I had had breakfast with my dad just that morning and never even considered the possibility of it being the last time I would see him. I was born with the guilt of not cherishing our final moments enough before dwelling upon the fact that I would probably never see him again. Emotions blinded my actions and I zoomed through the funeral, hardly mentally present and certainly emotionally devastated. After the funeral, I was the destination of my dad's lawyer. A couple of days later, he came up to me and informed me that my dad had written a will. I didn't think much of it and knew that it was going to be a small sum of money, the car, and some other belongings. He told me that my dad had left me all of his belongings, including the house, car, and the money in his savings account. My breath caught in my throat as the lawyer told me that he had $2.1 million stacked up in his account post-tax without the mention of anyone else. It took me a while to process what the lawyer had just informed me, but it clearly took me by surprise. I got all sorts of flashbacks of my dad barely making ends meet and struggling each month to pay rent on time and provide food and house expenses. There was no way he would have invested any money or won the lottery or even stolen any of it. He was a man of integrity that didn't believe in luck. He had the morals and principles of an underestimated genius but hardworking man. That's how he lived his life, and he made sure to preach it to me every single living day. Although I'm still mourning over the death of my father and unable to process that, I've become a millionaire overnight at the expense of my father's life. The company that he lost his life working at has already paid out $50,000 in compensation, as it's a fairly small one, and the problem wasn't anyone's fault. It was a machine malfunctioning. I can't help the nagging voice in the back of my head constantly steering me towards seeking answers and finding out how my poor dad left me $2.1 million of inheritance out of nowhere. Update: many months have passed and I've been unable to spend any of the money. Not only have I been able to accept that my dad is actually dead and that I'm all alone in the world, and I still struggle to go to sleep each night as a calm, quiet background noise urges me to find out what happened and how my father managed to land such a large sum of money. I had to sit and think of a solid plan to make sure my dad's name wasn't dragged to the mud in case there were illegal activities involved. Still, I also needed to find the answers no matter what, because it was becoming a focal point in my life that's just been keeping me from living ordinarily after experiencing such a loss. After many days of contemplation and planning, I decided to get myself together, clean myself up, and give myself a proper shave before heading down to the bank where I am to sniff out my first clues. I decided against hiring a private investigator because I wanted things to remain discreet and extra personal. I trusted that the plan I had was solid enough if Aita had inherited any bit of my father's genius. Then, this will be a short-lived investigation that will give the answers I'm seeking and allowing myself to go back to life in the most ordinary way possible. I got to the bank that day and asked for all the transactions that my dad's account had been involved in, since I technically owned it now, that I have all of his legal belongings, including the bank account. I covered it up by saying that I needed to settle his debts for religious purposes and they seemed to be sold on it for all I cared. What was on the reports was even more confusing because he had been sent a large sum of money from different corporations and companies that I slowly started to recognize as places he mentioned working for at some point or the other. They all started that the letter they should explain, air sincerest of sorrows, and hoped that the money would provide some relief of damage they had caused. It was all alongside lines, but none of the financial reports or signed documents stated why those complaints were sending my dad such large sums of money. That day had ended with me far more confused than I was when it started. What did they mean, and what were they apologizing for? Was my dad involved in some sort of drug dealing ring? Why else would they send him the equivalent of $2.1 million in a country where people struggle to pay for healthy meals? I decided that the next thing to do was to contact each one of those companies claiming that the letters had been lost in the post and requesting another version to be sent out. I waited for a few days as each one of those emails started getting responses and my letterbox was filling up as they did so. When I finally got the courage to read them, I sat on my couch, aware of the possibility that my dad might not have been a good man and that the contents of those letters might ruin the way I view him. My anxiety was getting the best of me, and my suspicions had finally been cleared out when I realized that there was nothing to hide in them. They all explained that they were sorry for having hired terrible employees or for purchasing cheap pieces of machinery and cutting down medical endurance for the newbies. Each one of those letters had a reason to be sorry, and based on it, sent money sum that ranged from what amounts to $100,000 to what annoyed to $1 million. They all had one thing in common. They all apologized for having been responsible for taking my dad's life. Their slackness or cheap who had led to his death, and that the money was invoiced to his bank account was included in his recruitment contract. It was starting to make sense after all, only there was no chance my father would have died over 30 times. His body was recovered from the work field of the building company I was supposed to work in with him, and that the company had compensated me for $50,000, no more and no less. How and why were all of these people throwing crap sums of money at my dad when they were P&G corporates taking his life? I decided to pursue my quest for truth and made a list of the closest work fields which belonged to the companies that had sent me money and headed towards them one by one in the following week. Again, I requested that they show me where my dad supposedly took his last breath. And they all showed me different places under a machine, in between walls, in small gaps, or underneath pickup trucks. There were other scenarios and explanations, and once again, there was a part of the story that was in common with all of them. There would always be a friend that worked with him, that was there the night he died, that rushed him to the hospital and stayed by his side while he took his last breath. That friend would clean things up and come up with a story and present them with a death certificate and a dying man's wish. Please don't let this get to the courts. Just compensate my son so he can live a decent life on his own and let me be at peace. The people knew my dad personally and trusted him, and therefore compiled with the request and trusted the death certificate that they were presented with. They have out however much money they could, and my dad and his mysterious friend would just move on to the next company. Different scenario, same ending, but different friend identity. I think the story is taking me down a rabbit hole, and I'm not sure how far down I can dig. I have to keep searching for the truth and find out who this friend is. Still, there's now a part of me that's just asking me to accept that my father gave away his life to provide a better one for me, and that I should be grateful for his genius and make some good out of it. And there's always the other part of me that worries about finding the bottom of the rabbit hole and raising it riddled with ruining lives and bloody hands. Maybe I should just stop looking, or perhaps this is the beginning of something that will never end. Next story. I've known forever that my 27 female big sister, 36 female, has always dreamt of her wedding ceremony. She loves big parties in general, but weddings are her drug of addiction. The flowers, the cake, the dress, the venue, all the preparation. This woman has served as the unofficial wedding planner of all her friend groups, 12 in total. Sadly, my sister has not found a guy she wants to spend the rest of her life with. And while it seems being single is not a problem for her, I think the fact that she is the only one of her friends without a wedding broke her mind. Why, you might ask? Because of the Christmas Wonder Jubilee, a magical winter ceremony. Not the real title, but believe me, it's just as cheesy. Yeah, she decided to suddenly host a huge party in honor of Christmas and all the good fortune I had in the year. And guys, let me just show you some of the things she is having at this party. A winter committee formed by her best girlfriends and family. Yeah, I'm there. We will all wear matching dresses and we are helping with all the logistics. A private mass in a fully decorated church. She expects all the attendants to come before the actual party because we obviously have to thank God. She's already talked to the priest so that she has a special speech during it. The the winter committee will be seated in the front of the entire congregation in places of honor. A venue, which coincidentally is one of the most famous wedding venues in my town, fully equipped to receive 120 guests, including her friends or extended family, people we haven't talked to in years, her co-workers, and her boss. A first dance. She and a professional dancer will have the first dance of the party, which is the most convoluted waltz I have ever seen in my life. Speeches by myself, our parents, and some others, all dedicated to the good fortune in our family. And you can also talk about me if you want, as the hostess, obviously. You see, she's going nuts. And while I've stopped myself from saying anything because I know this means a lot to her, the drop that spilled the glass appeared yesterday. Her dress. It's a wedding dress. There is no way of pretending it's anything else. A full-length white gown full of embroidery. I could not remain silent anymore. I told her that if she appeared with that in the church, all the guests, including her boss, will see that this is just a weird no-groom wedding and will think that she has gone insane. Obviously, this ended in a huge fight between us, and until the new order, I am banned from the wedding. I mean, the Jubilee. Everyone from her friends to my parents are saying that I'm the a-hole for confronting her. But come on, I can't be the only one that sees this as crazy. Yeah, she's having one of those marrying yourself things. I think they started about a decade ago, possibly in Japan or South Korea. It's just a big party and it sounds like it might be fun. What you need to ask yourself is, are you going to crap on your sister and her special party, or are you going to support her and have fun? That's all you really need to decide. There doesn't need to be confrontation or shaming or criticizing or anything else to make her feel bad. You're the a-hole. Stop making it about yourself and your opinions and support your sister. Yeah, but if original poster isn't living in Japan or South Korea and her guests haven't heard of this trend, then it's naturally going to come off as unusual at the very least. It'd be one thing if original poster's sister acknowledged that she's basically having a marrying yourself party, but it sounds like she's making every effort to pretend otherwise. No a-holes here, you're not wrong, but let her have whatever silly and bizarre party she wants. For all you know, single and loving parties will catch on and she'll have started the trend. I don't think you're the a-hole for thinking she's gone insane. To be honest, this post filled me with sadness. But your sister is also not the a-hole for being a bit mind-broken. But honestly, if the party is definitely happening, the only thing you can do at this point is to support her because she clearly needs support from her family and friends. You're the a-hole. While you believe you are being kind by calling this out, she just wants to have a special party with the people she loves. Let the poor woman have this. She isn't doing any harm and it's unlikely this will have any ill effect. Her co-workers may think she's a little eccentric, but as long as she's doing her job well, it's fine. Next story. Throwaway. I, 37 female, have a little sister named Valerie and a wonderful daughter named Lucy. As Lucy has entered her teen years, she has become a lot more self-conscious. She constantly compares herself to her friends at school, celebrities, etc. I currently have her attending therapy and I also try my best to remind her that she's beautiful just the way she is. Valerie took her daughter and Lucy to the mall yesterday. When Lucy got back home, I asked her how her day went. She smiled and said that she had a good time. About 3 hours later, I went into Lucy's room to put some of her clothes away. When I opened the door, I saw Lucy laying in her bed crying. I asked her what happened. She pulled out her phone and showed me some of the pics that Valerie had posted on social media. Valerie had posted pics of herself, her daughter, and Lucy hanging out at the mall. Lucy then pointed out that Valerie had obviously photoshopped her. She made her complexion clearer, her teeth whiter, and even slimmed in her waist. Lucy also pointed out that Valerie only photoshopped her in the pics. Lucy dropped her phone on the ground and cried her eyes out. Eventually, Lucy told me that she just wanted to be alone for a while. I left and went outside because I was ready to unleash on Valerie. I called her and demanded to know why she would alter Lucy's image. She got defensive and said, "Last time I checked, I could post whatever I want on my account." I told her about how crushed Lucy was when she saw the pics. Valerie doubled down and told me that she was simply making Lucy look better. I told her that Lucy is fine just the way she is, and I don't appreciate her destroying Lucy's confidence. We kept yelling at each other and things continued to escalate. Valerie yelled that she doesn't want her daughter around Lucy because I'm a drama queen. I yelled back, "Good, I don't want my daughter to be around a dollar store Instagram flirt anyway." She told me to go F myself, hung up on me, and blocked me everywhere. I haven't mentioned this conversation to Lucy because she's stressed out enough already. My husband says that I went too far and that I should have been more mature since I'm the big sister. Am I the a-hole? Edit. My insult was directed towards Valerie after she called me a drama queen. The insult was not directed towards my niece, just wanted to clear that up. Not the a-hole. Photoshopping someone without their knowledge or consent is despicable. Your sister sent your daughter a clear message that she's not good enough, not slim enough. Report the image as inappropriate and cut contact with sis. Agreed, I was plenty mad when the ones who had my senior pictures taken for a montage of the class photoshopped out the moles on my face. I already have enough trouble accepting them. Some people think occasionally that I eat like an animal. From a distance, the right one above my mouth looks like some faint chocolate remnant. At least it's in the shape of the British Isles if they were flipped around. As I have plenty to go around compared to most people I know, so to pretty much signal to me that they are mistakes to be removed, that hurt. And it was some person that I haven't even met once, not even my aunt. So yes, she absolutely deserved being laid into. Not the a-hole, but you're dealing with an ignorant and a-hole sister and aunt. In my opinion, she did something really sick and stupid, but she can't understand what she did is bad. She looks like a teenager who bases her life on social media. Sorry for that. Hope your kid gets under your influence, not her aunt's, which unfortunately is the same as a lot of people. I got the same impression. Maybe the younger sister looks at Lucy as a peer and not a niece. Maybe she doesn't know Lucy is in therapy and original poster needs to go talk to her about it. But she still reacted poorly when Opie told her about the pictures. Like I said in my comments, I was a young aunt and made my share of mistakes as well, though nothing as bad as this. But I was always ready to listen, apologize, and learn. Valerie needs to be willing to do that as well. Not the a-hole at all. Your husband is wrong. 1000%. Good on you for prompting, defending a good self-image for your daughter and sending her to therapy as well. Her attitude towards her own body is very detrimental long-term. Does she have a hobby? It could help her grow her self-esteem for reasons separated from her appearance, which could also help. Also, sister blocked you everywhere. Trash took itself out, don't even worry about her.